Hello everyone, welcome back to another review. I'm particularly excited for this one because this one revolves heavily around the opening, which is my favorite part of the game, and the part of the game where I'm strongest. As always, be sure to check out XHU's channel. I will post a link in the upper right hand corner of this video, and let's get started. So today's theme is being more active in the opening, and we will see that right here is the move that I call kind of the theme move. White here is too passive. This just isn't enough because black now gets to make the next big move, which is approaching a corner. So in this position, white really wants to approach one of these corners. That's not right. Wants to approach one of these corners here. A very typical continuation. And now white gets sente to attack, or to approach the other corner. And this is typical, this is common. I think I've seen this in the past as well. But this basic setup right here is how white really needs to attack the Sanrinsei and play a more active opening. And we'll see in the real game here that white got behind very quickly based on... So we've seen this high move in another video or two that I've done, and this is awkward. I talked over with XHU, and he said this is fine for black. Just to make the base and not allow this move, which is very severe and difficult for black to handle. So if you're going to play this way, and actually let me back up and show you something. XHU recommended this as what he calls a very aggressive opening for black. Very fast and just trying to take all the things. So as black, you might consider trying this sometime, just see how it works out for you. So we do this. And this is another passive move. And this is something that XHU actually taught me while we were going over this game, why this is considered a bad move, because this, which happens in the game right away, is a difficult choice for white. Here, white has these two extensions from the Hoshi stone, and one of them is going to end up looking silly. When you continue out the Joseki, that way. This is all the game. Now, this stone here looks kind of weird, because if we remove this stone and it's white's turn again, you know, white is not going to play here. So now that we have wasted, in effect, a move to play this move, and it's not doing anything. So what I think should have happened is, instead of this, white again needs to approach. Oops. Having misclicks today. White needs to approach. Now, if for some reason black decides that he wants to take this 3-3, then the choice becomes easy. Right? You know, we have a stone in this direction, and we obviously want to face our influence towards that stone, rather than this way. Where this approach stone here, you know, would be too far away. Or in the case that we don't even have that stone there, if we remove that stone, then this wall just looks kind of silly, especially with black having sente. So I thought that was really interesting, the way that this move becomes bad because one of these two moves is going to be wasted once black invades the 3-3. So to avoid that, what we do is we try and break that symmetry. There it is, by approaching over here. Now this way, if black decides that black wants this corner, the choice for white is easy, and this stone at the approach is not wasted, because even if black comes back to finish, you know, it's not a problem. White can handle it easily, although in this case, black should probably pincer. And we'll see this common variation played out, because it works very well with the A stone here. So just something to think about when you're going through, you know, just kind of playing along with what your opponent is doing. I think I've heard the term recently called puppy go. You just kind of go along with wherever your opponent's playing on the board, and very passive. So we really want to try to avoid this in the opening. We need to make big moves and be somewhat aggressive and fast to make sure that we're getting our fair share of the board. So here we'll go through this. And now not only did black make this marked stone look silly, but black has Sente. So black gets to make the next big move, which is this one, which is XHU said is a pretty good move. It really helps close the invasion off here at A, makes it way more difficult for white to handle. This is, again, somewhat passive. You know, this area in this square here is by no means territory. You know, this, it looks really large, but it's not really territory yet, and white is somewhat short right now in actual territory compared to what black has the potential for in the game. So really here we need to be playing something a little outrageous. You know, this is possible. XHU said that one of these two is pretty good. So if you don't know the continuations here, nope, sorry, screwed that up. Hang on. So clamp. Black needs to play this, and then we, as white, we actually leave that stone alone for a while. It's kind of odgy for later. If black descends instead of connecting, then white still comes back and plays here, but later, which I know is a frustrating concept in Go, later, it's always later, but later when white gets more moves over here in this general area, then this attachment causes some problems for black with this cut here at A. So, but this is a possibility for this point in the game. We kind of want to start breaking this area up. It's just getting a little too large, and since black gets to move first, you know, black gets to make all of those kind of big moves, and we want to not let black do that. So now black is very aggressive here in trying to grow this moyo. This ends up, white ends up living. I don't think white needs to make this move. I think white should take Sente somewhere else. But so now white wants to try and protect the territory. Black starts to come in, and white just kind of keeps following along and following along. And what we're doing here, when we play like this, is actually helping to solidify that territory for black. Now this upper portion here is becoming quite substantial, and this thickness that black is gaining in the middle towards that direction is really helping black to solidify that as actual territory. It's becoming harder and harder for white to invade. You know, something like this is still possible. This invasion is still possible. This invasion is still possible. So there are options, but when we help black get strong like this, we're constricting the amount of options we have to break up this kind of territorial framework. So here black ignores, and this is too small. White should not respond here. It's just not big enough. In this case, white can drive black up. Now, my first thought was to come back and protect this cut, and then make black choose a side, and then invade, because this thickness here helps white to get into this area. XHU said that white's actually a little too far behind on this particular board to protect the cut here. White should push up once more and then do something radical. Just cause a ruckus and see what shakes up, because he said that's how far behind white actually is right now in this game. Something drastic needs to happen. So we don't have time to protect this cut. It's just too slow for white to protect this cut. And so white needs to come over here and start something fierce, start a fight, complicate things, and try and break things up. He also has recommended, let's see if I can find it. We push up, something like this. He pointed this out in one of these variations. So you can see he has left some of these variations, there it is, in the chat. So when you come look at the SGF, make sure you take a look at some of those and go through them. And then here's another area where he showed that invasion. So, and let's keep going through the game, and you can see how white just kind of follows along and kind of passively lays, black extends here to help solidify a little more, and white just comes back and passively takes this point. Black is already ahead. This area up here is gigantic. So when black solidifies and white just solidifies this already smaller territory, white just gets further and further behind as the game continues. This move right here is probably only worth, what, 4 points maybe? This descent, if not answered, is worth at least 8 or 9 in the end game from the monkey jump. So we can just see that white's just making these passive, poor exchanges and losing points with every move. And here, again, there's just no points here. I mean, even if black, say white does something, and black comes back here, it's like 2 or 3 points that are sealed up, and probably not even. So when black takes a move, when white takes a move like this, it's almost wasted. It's almost like passing, because now black can come back and do something else, which I think black does. No, black defends, which is also too small, I believe here. So we struggle over what is essentially dame, right? There's no points here now. I mean, white. You see, if we come back here, white can say, well, I took this stone. I made an extra 4 or 5 points here. But the same is true up here, right? These moves, this is this square stone here is the move that white made initially to try and reduce this black area. And so white gained nothing. This is actually almost an even exchange with nothing gained for white. And white needs to gain now because white is behind on the board. So, excuse me. This is a really hard invasion for white to handle because of this huge, thick wall that black has in the middle. Black already has this enclosure here, so there is no fear for black to just kick this stone. And now white can't make a base, and black, I believe, black takes it, and white struggles for a second. This is a good move by black, actually. This drawing back. When we're attacking someone, we generally want to avoid contact moves, and this kind of, it looks really passive, but what it really says is, I am going to attack you severely. I'm not going to give you any opportunity to strengthen your stone. And it doesn't quite work in this particular context, but for example, if black were to hane, it gives white an excuse to no-be here and make this group a little stronger. But if black comes back here and plays this way, white's never going to do that. That just looks silly. So when we kind of back off like this, we don't encourage our opponent to make their shape better. And this is actually a very solid attacking move. You'll see a lot of times in stronger games, in strong player games, where their opponent will attach and they'll just draw back because they don't want to allow their opponent any cuts or weaknesses to take advantage of, especially in an area like this where white has very little opportunity for eyes. Inviting any cuts or complication is bad for black. In this case, and I think I mentioned this in another review, in this context, complication is only good for white. White wants to complicate things in the hopes that black will make a mistake and white will live or get out. So what black wants to do here is avoid that complication. Don't give any cuts, don't offer any weakness, stay solid and strong. And because black already has all of this strength in the area, it's really difficult for white to live. It's just really difficult. I would say almost impossible if you're playing against someone who understands the basics of how to reduce eye space and things of that nature. It'd be really tough for white to live here. And in fact, white doesn't. White actually gives up here, in just a second, and decides that now is the time to try and reduce this black. But it's already too late. But at this point in the game, and here, actually, white resigns. So you can see, and we can see, this all started back here in the opening, right? This is what black says here. I want influence, and I'm going to use that influence to spread out across the board and attack and take points. And white just says, okay, go for it. You spread out as far as you want. So black does, and then white passively backs off again and allows black this, what should be an awkward kind of shape because the skirt is open under here. And white doesn't punish at all, right? White just lets him have it. And then this subtlety, which I was really excited to learn, and I think this is a big point that we should take away from this review that XHU pointed out to me, is this is kind of awkward isn't right, but not good for white. It looks good, and when we're beginners, we learned that this double wing formation is really nice. But when we have the double wing off of this 4/4 like this, one of these stones now ends up looking silly, right? It's going to be a two-space extension from a wall that we would never make in any other circumstance. So when we come to a case like this, where there's still this big approach move open, and we have kind of this extension here, we really want to pull this all the way across. Be a little. Not only is this more active, because a corner approach is worth more, than a side extension. Like if we look at the, go check out Nick Sabicki's video on the opening, and I'll put a link to that up in the corner as well, along with XHU's channel. And he has this list of order of importance. What's the most important thing on the board in the opening? And side extensions like this are behind corner approaches like this. So we really want to be more active like this to keep from falling behind like white did in this game. Let's go through it one more time and we'll point out some. Right, and still here, this is still possible. It's harder than it was before. But white really needs to do something drastic up in this area to try and break up this formation, because it's looking really nice for black now, especially now that black got this and white can't make a two-space extension over here anymore without running in to black. This looks rough. Even if white does manage to live along the side, the resulting wall that black will get is phenomenal, especially with these stones already in place. So we really, again, just need to be more active in the opening. We can't let black have like this move, and we can't let black take moves like this, where we're just kind of passively reacting to them and making black stronger in the process. Again, this is entirely too small. If we if we count here, say white plays here, black takes this. So this move here, where black took, ended up being 1 point, because the actual point itself was filled in after the Atari. However, this move by white ends up being, something way bigger than that 1 point. And I can't count it very accurately because I'm not that good. But just looking at it, you can see that this is obviously bigger than this 1 point of black's. So when we play the opening, what we want to do is ignore the small moves if it is not threatening the life of our group. So you'll hear people say urgent before big, and that means that if the life of your group is threatened, then you want to play that move right away, regardless of its size, like in terms of points. But here, this doesn't threaten the life of anything. It just threatens to take 1 stone, which is 2 points, if black manages to preserve this open space. So we want to start reducing this black area of influence. Plus, this is somewhat sente, I think. Let me read the ladder out. Nope, I was wrong. Even though this ladder doesn't work, if black ignores, then white can drive up in complete safety, and now this area of influence is kind of wrecked, and it's going to be difficult for black to develop territory in this area because this strong white wall will help with any invasions in the area. So the takeaway, I guess, from this opening, what we want to see, we'll go through it one more time here, is active. We want to be active. We need to be doing something during this opening. So this is too passive, and I will show this again. This is a very common pattern for the Sanrin-sei. And now white gets to approach the bottom corner, and generally black will back off in this case. This is really common. Whenever you see the Sanrin-sei played in high-level games, which isn't that often anymore, I don't see it very often when I watch stronger players. But if it is played, then this is really common. So remember this. This is an active opening by white. You know, white is not letting black expand this influence across the board. White is coming right up to the influence and saying, I'm going to check this. You're not going to get to spread out. Oops, wrong way. You know, this is, so white takes the corner territory, which is nice cash, and then takes sente to come approach the next one. Now, generally, this, I've seen this several times in my own games, where black will actually take both walls like this. But this is considered bad because now black's kind of all in. Now, again, white has sente. So white can come out and take another big move, enclosure. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure what would be a good move for white in this case. I don't see this situation too often. White could even just come in, if I remember correctly from a Dwyren video a while back about the Sanrin-sei, you know, white can come in and just reduce here right away, because now black is betting that black gets all of this. Black is saying, I'm going to get all these points, and all of these points are going to be bigger than whatever you can get on the rest of the board. And that's a pretty risky proposition. If you're playing someone of equal skill level, it's pretty risky. If you are a stronger player playing against a weaker player, it's not quite as risky because your odds of invading your opponent's territory and surviving are greater. But if you're playing someone at the same skill level, you know, for black, this is a very risky proposition. So this is why when white approaches this bottom corner, you will see black back off and just take a little safety, and then usually in these kinds of exchanges, the approached corner takes sente. And that's what's really important here, is that black takes sente afterward. Let's say we just play out a standard Joseki. Well, now black can come over here and start breaking this stuff up. And black's not all in on this one area of the board. Black's spreading out across now. So, again, I'll repeat it because repetition is the soul of learning. The main thing we want to remember here is an active opening. We want to make sure that we are not just passively following along with our opponent. And this is what I love about the opening, is that you have that freedom, especially in these first like 7 or 8 moves. There's almost no obligation anywhere, right? I mean, right here, there's no urgent moves. There's nothing in danger. So you are free as white to play where you want. And what you should want to do is negate your opponent's plan. Your opponent wants to use this somewhat of a wall here to spread this influence across the board. And so white says, no, that is not going to happen. And that to me is what's really fun about the opening, is that it's free. It's very open. It's very open for experimentation. When we get into the middle game, we're bound by what we've done in the opening, our groups. If our groups are weak, then we spend our middle game protecting our groups. If our if our opponent's groups are weak, then we spend our middle game attacking groups. And that's fun, but it's this kind of set path. And in the opening, we're freed from that. We're free of constraint. It's our board. It's an open. So, look for some of these things when you're playing in your games. Try to avoid passive moves like this. Try to avoid passive moves like this. This is very passive. This exchange here in the middle is another great example, kind of like this passive move here is a real great example of what I'm talking about with being passive in the opening. Just playing wherever your opponent plays. Your opponent played there first, so they're going to have somewhat of an advantage. So you're already behind. Right? And now you can see black just getting stronger and building that area. And then this move especially, I think this is what I should have probably chosen as the theme move, is this connect is just way too small and too passive. Puppy go, as XHU called it when we were looking at this. You just need to be more active as white, especially here, something like this, and just kind of get in there, and you've got to break up this giant area that black is building based on your passive play here in the middle. So I think that's going to wrap it up. I'm trying to keep these things relatively short because I know how hard it is to follow along a long Go lecture and not have your brain just turn to mush. Thanks a lot for watching, and I really appreciate any feedback I can get. If I'm doing something wrong, let me know, and I'll try and change it. If I'm doing something that you like, let me know, and I'll do more of it. I post these things on GoKibit so you guys can comment on them, and I post the links to the reviews, the SGF itself, in the information as well. And hit me up on the forum post that I put when I post this video, and let me know how you think I'm doing. Thanks a lot for submitting everything. I'm probably going to, I've only got about 2 videos left in my queue, I think, and then I will post another forum topic looking for new submissions. So thanks a lot, guys. I've really enjoyed doing these so far.